Blessings and good morning. So this is going to be how to emotionally guide a person. And it's most because I don't know if this is like called something or something I picked up along the way or whatever, but it 100% works. It's kind of crazy how good it works. But, people won't really need it if they're good. If they're just good, there's no need to try to guide them anywhere. But if they're sad, if they're like crying, let them cry. You can still be a pillar of stability for them, but like let them get the emotional blocks out. You don't just want to like demonize their crying or like stuff it back inside them or try to like humor it out or whatever. But like after they're done, maybe you can kind of do like, because if ladies crying, I'll let them cry, let them get out their thing, and I'll be like, hey, look, it's gonna be okay. You got great ass. And then usually just kind of be like, oh, thanks. Yeah, you know what I mean? But like that's not really what I'm talking about. That's not what I'm talking about. So if they're crying, just let them cry. Let them get out. Just be there for them. Just listen to them. A lot of people just need to be listened to. And that's a lot of their healing right there. But so this is more for like somebody who's in a almost like even like a semi-catatonic state or like an anger state, especially if they're angry at you or like a shared issue in the house or whatever, like this is going to be how to kind of guide them back down to calm. Because like it's you, I want to put it, okay, in my experience, right, it's usually been a lady, kind of freaking, and like, if they're freaking upset about this thing or that thing, because okay, take the gender dog. Like, so how many times have you seen a person, and they're freaking at you about a shared issue or whatever, and you stay totally calm, they tend to freak out even more. You know what I mean? Because even if, okay, as a guy, right, see if ladies having a problem, right? Even if I blatantly give them a solution to their problem, that's not really what it was about, as little sense that makes to a guy, right? That's not really what it was about. It was never really about the problem. It's about the emotions and how they're feeling about it. Right? So like really what this technique does is validates their emotion. Whoever's emotion, okay? Again, it's usually late. Again, my experience out here, okay. But so to do that, it's like, because you can actually retain your inner calmness, and it's much preferred to do that. Because if you don't, and you try to meet it where it's at freaking, you'll just end up going back and forth with it, freaking out. Also real quick to mention, if like you're not intimate with it, like you don't know the thing and it's freaking out, just walk away. Just preserve your shit and walk away if it's not something somebody actually care about. But if it is, the key is to meet them where they're at emotionally. And then you start guiding it from there. And that's what that's what makes people feel heard, is when you actually can be receptive to their emotion, or they perceive that you're then receptive to how they're feeling based on you reflecting it to them. So like, this might be how it plays out, okay? And I'm not going to do an actual argument, like the dialogue or an actual argument, because that's not really important. What is important is just listen to my tone and like my emotional state, right? So let's say the thing is freaking out. Like freaking out. And so here's what you meet them where they're at. Say, you know what? Fine. blah, 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 blah. All right? Da, 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 da. Can we just blah, 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 blah. Some gibberish out here. But like, do you see, and it could be elongated from there. I kind of simplify it a little bit. But do you see how I met it where it was at? Emotionally. And validated its feelings. Now it perceives that you understand where it's coming from. It doesn't really matter. Again, the actual problem isn't really what it was. Right? But once you meet them where they're at, then you can start slowly guiding them back down to a stable state. But again, if you're just calm and stay calm, that tends to make the thing freak out even more and more because it wants you to meet it where it's at. It's insisting upon its like emotion. Okay. Oh, also check out my necklace. Excuse me. My second mom gave it to me. Hi, second mom. Love you. Thank you. I love it. I haven't worn shells in a while. Yeah. But yeah, I don't care. I love it. But so anyway, is that making sense? You know, because it's, and I don't know if this is actually called something, like if it's an actual thing or not, but it works very, very well. But again, guys, you don't want to, if it's not somebody you care about, just walk away. Like just going back and forth with stuff will only perpetualize the issue and the energy, especially if that thing is vampiric to you. You know, if you really want the thing to leave you alone, for example, it's not somebody you care about. If you want the thing to leave you alone, just stop giving it energy. Period. That's how you defeat things. By just not participating. Going tit for tat, back and forth, eye for an eye, everybody in the line, fight, fire, fire, okay. But it's like the story of Merlin and Maleficent. You know, like, they battled for like centuries, you know, over this or that until finally Merlin threw up his hands one day and said, "Fuck, you know, I'm done. I'm just done." Right? And Maleficent at first was going berserk, you know, trying to get him to fight back, you know, doing this and that and blah, 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 and freaking out, calling him. But he just kept saying, nope, 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 until he forgot her name. And then she just dematerialized. She ceased to exist. That's how he defeated her. So you see, going back and forth with it is just going to perpetualize issues, and you're giving your energy. You know, that's what it wants. It was never about the problem that, you know, most likely it created, and probably is blaming you for. You know, gaslighting type shit. It was just about you participating in it and validating its opinion by going back and forth with it. Validating that there actually was a problem in the first place, even though they created and started. You know, so when you just kind of totally just brush it off and walk away, that's when you defeat the thing. You know, if it's like an enemy, if it's a toxic thing, okay, if it's somebody you care about, guide them back down. That's what it is to be a pillar of stability for somebody. You know, you can meet them where they're at. But again, it's important to actually have your internal stability. You know, it's important to have a choice and not just reaction based. Because if you're just reacting, you're just going to go back and forth. You know, meet them where they're at and guide them back down. You know, 100% works. Anyway, I'm just kind of stalling for time so I can get to the store here this morning. I gotta go pay my rent and stuff. But anyway, blessings. Thank you all for being here. Have a good day.